Good morning, everyone. So I've noticed there have been some issues with the quizzes and that they're not giving very good feedback. So what I figure I should do is actually go through some of these quizzes and go through the feedback. All right, what substance does the stomach use to secrete to lower pH? Hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric. No, hydrochloric. Well, that's what it is. If I misspelled it, it'll count it wrong. All right, what do we call the part of the mucosa that lies deep to and directly under the epithelium? This would be the lamina propria. Smooth muscle causes large movement in the digestive tract, such as peristalsis, the muscularis externa. What is the name for the first part of the small intestine? The duodenum. And I'm about to hit jejunum. All right, what structure is the first part of the large intestine, has the appendix attached to it, and receives contents from the last part of the small intestine, the cecum? In which of the following GI regions would you expect to find stratified squamous epithelium? Well, we know the anus is one. The mouth is one. All these others have simple columnar. You have to get both. If you don't hit both answers, then you won't get credit. All right, what is the name for the part of the throat located posterior to the oral cavity? That would be the oropharynx. All right, the digestion of which of the following macromolecules begins in the mouth? Lipids and carbohydrates. What is the term for churning movements that push a bolus back and forth within the digestive tracts to allow for mixing within GI segments? Well, that is segmentation. What accessory structure secretes lipases, amylases, proteases, and buffers into the first part of the small intestine? That would be the pancreas. All right, let's see what feedback it gives me. Okay, so far, no problems. So this quiz seems relatively straightforward. All right, let's have a look at the second quiz about the support structures of the gastrointestinal tract. So, what mesentery stabilizes the position of the liver? That will be the falciform ligament. What is the specific term for the simple squamous linings of the serous membrane, the mesothelium? Which of the following organs are intraperitoneal? The stomach, the spleen, sigmoid colon, transverse colon, the ascending colon and descending colon are retroperitoneal. So we should have all of these. Double check that. The problem with these questions, if you miss even one of these, it'll count the whole thing wrong. All right, which of the following are retroperitoneal? We have the rectum, the adrenal glands, the ascending colon, and the pancreas. Now let's actually purposefully miss one, and then we'll see what the feedback is, and we'll see why some people have been having some trouble with this. All right, so what side of the peritoneum is in contact with the retroperitoneal organs? Well, that would be the parietal layer, because remember, the peritoneum is now going to be covering the anterior surface, and these retroperitoneal organs are locked into the back body wall, so they're not in the peritoneum. All right, what mesentery is found between the liver and the stomach? That would be the lesser omentum. And remember, we missed one purposefully to see what the feedback will be. All right, what structure supports the transverse colon, the transverse mesocolon? What is the term for the double layer of serous membrane that provides passageways, so forth? That's a mesentery. So what we're going to do now is we're going to return to the attempt, and we're going to look at the one that we purposefully left out one. So if we go over here, the pancreas we know is retroperitoneal, but we only chose 3. Now let's see what's going to happen. And we will see 4. It counted 4 as wrong. And the problem is it's not telling you that the pancreas is part of it. So it doesn't tell you that what you missed. It just tells you that you didn't get them all. So this is a problem that a lot of people have been having. So just to let you know, you have to get all of the ones correct in order for it to give you credit for that question. So just to be aware of that, I know a lot of people have been questioning this and having problems with it. That's why we're going over it now. Now let's look at the quiz about the oral cavity. So how many teeth are in the primary dentition? This is how many teeth do your kids have? 20 teeth. How many, part of the tooth that contacts the teeth on the opposite jaw, that would be the occlusal surface. And occlusion means closing. So you can imagine when you close your mouth, you occlude the entrance to the mouth. All right, what piece of connective tissue connects the top to the floor of the mouth? That would be the lingual frenulum. What is the hardest substance in the human body? That would be enamel, which is about 96% mineral, about 96% mostly hydroxyapatite. What are the conical teeth lateral to the lateral incisors? Those would be the canines, also known as the eye teeth colloquially. How many teeth are in the full adult dentition? Assuming you have your wisdom teeth, it will be 32. Which are the last teeth to erupt in the adult dentition? The third molars. What is another name for the primary dentition? The deciduous teeth, because like leaves in the tree in fall, they come out. What tissue covers the neck and the alveolar process that surrounds the root of the teeth? That would be the gingiva, which are gums. Finally, through what blood vessels, lymphatics, and nervous tissue travel to get to the pulp cavity? That would be the root canal. Let's have a look and see how we did. This one didn't have any particular tricky questions in that they didn't have multiple answers. All right, let's see what we got with 10. Through what do blood vessels, lymphatics, and nervous tissue travel? Well, that's odd. And here, it's actually counting it incorrectly and telling me that I got it correct. Tells me I got the answer incorrect, and yet it's got it checked here. So this looks like a Moodle issue to me. And sometimes Moodle will do this. If this were a graded quiz that you were actually going to get a grade for, then all you'd have to do is screenshot it, send it to me, and then I would correct your grade accordingly. But Moodle is not always perfect, and nor am I. All right, let's look at the following quiz. So next up, we have the quiz on the esophagus, part of the stomach, so forth. All right, let's look. What do we have? What is one of the main functions of the uvula? Well, that's to keep stuff from getting in the nasopharynx, so E. What structure prevents ingested material from getting into the lungs? That would be the epiglottis that closes over the trachea when we swallow. What part of swallowing occurs in the mouth? Well, that would be the buccal phase. Buccal meaning cheek. The laryngeal phase, the larynx, is this part, so then the esophageal phase will be when it's in the esophagus. The others, well, they're kind of, well, actually, this is the pharyngeal phase, not the laryngeal phase. So we have a buccal phase, a pharyngeal phase, which is in the throat, and an esophageal phase. All these others are sort of just made-up terms. All right. Through what does the esophagus pass on the way to the stomach? The esophageal hiatus. And that's that little passageway in the diaphragm. All right, what is special about the muscularis externa of the stomach? It has an oblique layer, but where is the oblique layer? It's on the inside, so it's the innermost. So it's inside the circular smooth layer. What key feature do we know about the epithelium of the stomach? There's very little absorption, that's true. It's simple columnar. It produces a thick mucus coat. It has gastric pits. Well, all that's true. The only thing that's not true is it's stratified squamous. If we miss one of these, we won't get credit. What do we call the folds in the mucosa that allow for distension? Rugae. Okay. What is the lateral surface of the stomach called? The greater curvature. What hangs from the infralateral surface of the stomach? That would be the greater omentum. Yes, these two are colloquial names, but I don't think I gave credit for them. All right, what do we know about the muscularis externa of the esophagus? Let's see. It transitions from skeletal muscle to smooth muscle. So the first third's mostly skeletal muscle when you're consciously initiating the swallowing, and then once the swallowing gets started, then the rest proceeds as a reflex and is taken over by the smooth muscle. All right, let's see how we did. Let's see, number 10. What does it tell me I did wrong with number 10? So, number 10. Oh, once again, it did it again. Look at this. It's telling me my answer is incorrect. Giving me a check. Where's the rest of it? Surrounded by an esophageal mesentery? No, it's adventitia. It has only a longitudinal layer of smooth muscle? No, it has both. It is entirely under conscious control? No. It transitions from skeletal to smooth muscle? No. It has an extra oblique layer? No. Let's see if somehow we have an answer in here checked. So transitions from skeletal to smooth muscle. That is interesting. Sometimes if you're not careful, Moodle will either check or not check things. Sometimes if you put your cursor over them, then it'll check it even when you didn't press the mouse button. So sometimes that will happen. So hopefully that's now fixed. And now we can finish the review. So again, neither Moodle nor I are perfect. All right, protein digestion begins in the stomach. No E. During the intestinal phase, let's see, the intestinal phase. The myenteric plexus is inhibited. Cholecystokinin is secreted by the duodenum. Stomach motility is not increased. Production of stomach acids and enzymes, that's true. Gastric inhibitory peptide is secreted. That happens often. Usually. So this is typical of what we have. Very occasionally, if we have a lot of undigested proteins, then we might send a signal back to the stomach that says, hey, do a little bit more work on these proteins before you send them to me. All right, parietal cells secrete hydrochloric acid and intrinsic factor. Gotta get them both. About half the nutrients you eat are absorbed in the stomach. That is definitely false. Almost nothing is absorbed in the stomach. During the cephalic phase of digestion, the stomach might rumble. The vagus nerve stimulates the submucosal plexus of the stomach. These things. Obviously, the hepatopancreatic sphincter doesn't need to open yet, nor does the pyloric sphincter need to open. All right, chief cells are going to secrete pepsinogen. Don't put pepsin because that's the inactive form. That is the active form, and you wouldn't want to secrete the active form in the cell. It would just digest itself. The cell would digest itself, I mean. So we're going to make pepsinogen and gastric lipase in here. All right, let's see. What besides acid and enzymes are produced within the gastric pits? Mucus and new epithelial cells. So new epithelial cells, gastrin. Okay, those are the only things on the list that I see. Somatostatin. Bile, no. Cholecystokinin, no. We'll see that in the duodenum. All right, cholecystokinin does which of the following? I hope not. Hope it doesn't cause gremlins to get here. Causes gallbladder contraction. Causes secretion of pancreatic enzymes. Opens the hepatopancreatic sphincter. During the gastric phase, now we actually have stuff in the stomach. So this is going to happen. Gastrin's going to be secreted. Stomach's going to secrete enzymes, acids, mucus. Yeah, everything except cholecystokinin. We're not going to see that till we get to the duodenum, really. All right. Secretin performs which of the following functions? It's going to increase buffers from the pancreas. It's going to increase liver and pancreatic secretions. And inhibit parietal cells from secreting hydrochloric acid. Anything in here I missed? It's not going to increase gastric motility, it's going to decrease it. Let's see what we got here. Let's see if I missed something. Submit all and finish. Let's see what we got here. It says we got them all right here, so this quiz seems to be okay. No issues here. Now moving on to the next quiz, the small intestine quiz. What are the main functions of the duodenum? Well, secrete mucus to protect against harsh stomach acids, mix gastric, pancreatic, and liver secretions, receive contents from the stomach, receive bile from the liver and the gallbladder, yeah, receive enzymes and buffers from the pancreas. That all looked pretty correct. Where do we find mucus glands, epithelial cells, and enteroendocrine cells? In the crypts of Lieberkühn. These are the intestinal pits. All right. Where do we find Brunner's glands? Only in the duodenum. What is the middle segment of the small intestine? The jejunum. Where does the absorption of most nutrients take place? In the jejunum. Where do we find the most prominent plica circularis and villi? In the jejunum. This is the jejunum quiz. What does enteropeptidase do? It's going to activate proenzymes secreted by the pancreas. So chymotrypsin, chymotrypsinogen, trypsinogen. Activates trypsinogen into trypsin. Oh, yeah, I got to check it, otherwise it won't give me an answer. All right, let's see what we did. Submit all and finish. Okay, yep, we had to check all of these. If you miss any of these, you're not going to get any credit for that first question. So once again, just to remind you, you have to check all the correct answer choices or it won't give you a correct answer. I could change the format of those questions moving forward so it would give you partial credit. Those questions are a bit of a pain. All right, let's have a look at the pancreas. About what percent of the pancreas is physically dedicated to exocrine functions? Exocrine functions, that is the production of enzymes. So 98 to 99%. What is a proenzyme? It is an enzyme that has not yet been activated. Usually you have to cleave part of the amino acid structure. So it's not a separate molecule, and it's not a specialized cell that secretes molecules or enzymes. It could be a sleazy politician. No, I don't think so. It's an enzyme that's not been activated. All right, where does the pancreatic duct empty? Into the duodenal ampulla. All right, what type of cells are found within the pancreatic acini? Well, exocrine cells, but more specifically, simple cuboidal. This one may not have been obvious what the answer was looking for. Cuboidal. Did I spell it right? Good question. We'll see. What type of enzymes are produced by the pancreas? Nucleases, amylase, proteolytic enzymes, lipases, not aromatases. Nope, we don't see any aromatases in there. Aromatases will convert testosterone into estrogen. Yeah, we're not going to have that going on in the pancreas. All right, let's see what we got. All right, let's see. Yep, that's all correct. On the Y, it doesn't think cuboidal spelled correct, but I think that's correct. All right, finish the review. All right, moving right along, let's look at the liver. So what does the liver do? Metabolic regulation. Doesn't secrete intrinsic factor. We know that's done in the stomach. Does produce bile. It's not going to secrete proteolytic enzymes into the duodenum. That's the pancreas. Hematologic regulation. All right. What does the portal triad consist of? A branch of the hepatic artery proper, a bile duct, and a branch of the hepatic portal vein. If we remember, the central vein's in the middle of the lobule, and the hepatocyte are the cells making up the lobule that surround the sinusoids. So these are what we find in the portal triads. Branch of hepatic artery proper, bile duct, and a branch of the hepatic vein. All right, what is the name given to the resident macrophages of the liver, the Kupffer cells? What does the gallbladder do? Concentrates bile. What is the functional unit of the liver? Well, that would be the lobule, which is made up of hepatocytes and sinusoids, but the hepatocyte is the cell. The functional unit is the lobule. I see a lot of people miss that on tests, by the way. All right, into what do the sinusoids drain? This I didn't actually mention in the slide. I just had an arrow pointing to it. That would be the central vein right there in the middle of each lobule. All the sinusoids sort of run into that thing. All right. Let's see. What is the dome-shaped portion of the gallbladder called? Well, anytime we have a dome-shaped thing, it's usually called a fundus. All right. How does bile get into or out of the gallbladder? Well, it has to go via the cystic duct. And let's finish the review. And done. All right, the last quiz was the large intestine. Most of the rest of the stuff we'll be covering in this chapter we'll go over in lab next week when we get to enzymes and digestion. All right, so the first question here is what enzymes are produced by cells of the large intestine? Well, none. Any enzymes produced in the large intestine will be made by bacteria. We have a symbiotic relationship with bacteria without which we would not survive. In fact, if people have a diminution of these bacteria to the point that they're no longer doing their function, sometimes people will actually have a fecal transplant, believe it or not, to reintroduce the good bacteria that are necessary to populate the lumen of the large intestine. All right, what are the bands of longitudinal smooth muscle? This is one of those ones that's really hard to spell. Tinea coli. This is plural. Tinea is singular, tenei are plural. All right, what important nutrients are absorbed by the large intestine? Vitamin B5, vitamin K, and biotin. If you recall, vitamin B12 is absorbed in the ileum, and it needs intrinsic factor in order to be absorbed, and that intrinsic factor is secreted by the stomach. So in the large intestine, we have vitamin B5, vitamin K, and biotin. All right, during the defecation reflex, gremlins lock the bathroom door from the inside. Well, skeletal muscle external anal sphincter involuntarily constricts. That's true. You don't want to do it right there. The smooth muscle internal anal sphincter involuntarily relaxes. True. Short reflexes increase local peristalsis in the distal sigmoid colon and the rectum. Long reflexes increase peristalsis along the entire intestine. All of that's true. If A is true, then you've got serious problems. I hope not. All right, which of the following are absent from the large intestine? Well, villi, plicae circularis. Remember, it's kind of flat in there. We're not doing a whole bunch of absorption here, only limited things. Only about 10% of our nutrients will be absorbed in here. All right, which part of the large intestines are retroperitoneal? Well, we have the ascending colon and the descending colon. The cecum's intraperitoneal. The transverse colon is definitely within the transverse mesocolon. Sigmoid colon has a sigmoid mesocolon. So we know it's the ascending and descending colon. All right. What are the pouches in the walls of the colon called? Haustra. And this is where we have our haustral churning, where we've got movement of material back and forth between the two adjacent haustra, or between adjacent haustra. All right, what happened to the slide depicting the large intestine? Indeed, it had disappeared. Why did it disappear? Gremlins must have gotten it. I just checked to see if you actually watched the video. Let's see how we did. Looks like we got the answer choices correct. That means that the answers at least have been properly annotated within the quiz itself.